Hello and welcome back from spring break. I hope everybody had an amazing spring break and you feel like you got rejuvenated and you're ready to finish out the rest of the school year strong. We've got about a little more than 2 months left of the school year, and I think you'll find that that's going to go by really fast. So let's buckle up for the end of the year and let's jump back in with we are going to start a new unit, Unit 9 this week. And I do have a warm-up problem that's going to help us get started with Unit 9. And you can see that it is finding the area of a circle. So make sure you do have your math notebooks out and you're ready to take good notes, especially with this warm-up problem, so that when you we're going to be working with volume this week, and that involves finding the area of a lot of different circles. So having this warm-up problem in your notes is going to be very helpful for you when you go to do this week's assignment. So go ahead and take a moment, try this in your math notebook, and when you're ready to check your work with mine, go ahead and do so. So click pause. One quick thing before you do click pause. If you can't remember the formula to find the area of a circle, something that you can do is do a quick web search and find the area of a circle to help you. So you can do a web search if you need a reminder of what that formula is. Go ahead and click pause, and when you're ready to check your work with mine, go ahead and click play. Okay, so area of a circle. Let's talk about that formula. The formula is area equals pi r squared. And remember, this symbol here represents pi, and we will use 3.14. That's the number that represents pi. There's also pi buttons on your calculator too if you want to use those. So this circle, the radius is from the center of the circle out to any side on a circle. That's what the radius is. So the radius starts at the center of the circle and goes out to any side of the circle, and that represents the radius. And that is represented by r in our formula. So let's go ahead and substitute our values into the formula to find the area of that circle. So I'm going to put 3.14 for pi. I know the radius is 5, and then we're going to square that. So let's start simplifying. I know we need to simplify 5 squared. 5 squared is the same thing as 5 times 5, which is 25. And then you can grab your calculators to help you finish up this equation and find the area. 3.14 times 25, and we're going to go ahead and get that value for the area is 78.5. And whenever we're dealing with units or with area, we need to have units of measure. And when we talk about area, our units will always be squared. So here we weren't given a specific unit like centimeters, inches. So I'm just going to put units squared to let us know that we know that the units for area need to be squared. So that is how we find the area of a circle. So make sure you take down the formula for area of a circle so you don't forget that. You will need that this week. I am going to go on to the next slide, so if you need more time to take some notes, go ahead and click pause now. So we are starting a new unit, Unit 9, and this week we're going to do sessions 1 through 3. So what we're going to focus on this week is finding the volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres. So if you look below here, you can see what each of those looks like. A sphere is like a basketball. It's a round ball. A cylinder is kind of like it's the shape like a can of soda or pop. And then a cone is that shape of a cone that you would hold in your hand and have an ice cream cone. So the cone is shaped like this. So we're going to learn how to find the volume of each of those three dimensional shapes today and this week. So let's talk about cylinders. Again, a cylinder is shaped like a can of soda, and we have radiuses, just like we do for circles. A radius, you can see a cylinder is made up of a circular base. So a cylinder will have a radius from the center to the outside of that circle. That would be the radius. We can also talk about heights of cylinders, and that's the distance between your two circular bases. That's going to be your height. And then remember, we also have diameters when we talk about circles. And diameters are just the length of the entire circular base. From one end of a circle to another is a diameter. And remember, radius is going to be half of a diameter. So diameters and radiuses are related. Diameter will always be 2 times the radius of any circle. So just keep that in mind, that diameters and radiuses are in fact related. Okay, so we've talked about the parts of a triangle, and now let's put that all together to find the formula to find the volume of a cylinder. So the volume of a cylinder in your book will be written as volume equals capital B times H. And it's important that you note that when you see capital B, especially when you look in this week when you go through your notes, that that capital B represents the area of the base, and the base is a circle, and we know that the area of a circle is pi r squared. So when we see that B in the volume equals capital B squared, just know that B represents the area of the base. And that we know the bases are circle, so to find the area of a base, it's pi r squared, and then we would multiply it times the height. So pi r squared represents the area of the base, and then we need to multiply it times the height of the cylinder. So let's go ahead and do an example. Down at the bottom of the slide, I've got a cylinder with some dimensions, and let's go ahead and find the area of this cylinder. So first, I always like to write down what the general formula is, and I'm going to use pi r squared times h instead of capital B times h. You can use either one. I just like to have all the components of the formula right in front of me. So I'm going to multiply. I'm just going to put 3.14 for pi. And what's the radius of this cylinder? So the radius is from the center of the circle base to the outside. So the radius is going to be 2. The radius will be 2. And we need to square that. We need to square that. And then we need to multiply it times the height. And remember, the height is the distance between the two bases, so that's going to be 4. So we can go ahead and plug this in our calculator now. 3.14, well, 3.14 times, I know 2 squared is 4, times 4. And I get 50.24. If I left my answer just like this, I would get points taken off because you do need to include units of measurement. And here, when we talk about volume, the units of measurement are always going to be cubed. So it would be centimeters cubed. So when we deal with volume, our units of measurement are going to be cubed. And that's it. We found the volume of a cylinder using the formula. I'm going to go on to the next slide. If you need more time to take notes, please do so. Go ahead and click pause if you need more time. What about, let's look at this problem. It says the volume of a cylinder is 99 cubic feet. So we're given the volume in this problem. The volume equals 99 cubic inches, inches cubed. And we're asked to find the height. We're asked to find the height of the cylinder. Okay, so we're given the volume and we need to find the height. So look at the picture. What other information are we given in this picture? So I see 6 inches is representing something. What is that 6 inches representing? It's representing the distance from here to here on the base of our cylinder. So the distance across a circle is the diameter. So we're also given the diameter. So let's review. To find the volume of a cylinder, it's pi r squared, because that represents the area of our base, times the height. And now let's plug in the information that is given to us. We're given the volume, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in 99 in for the volume because we were given that in the information above. And we know pi is 3.14, so I'm going to write that number in to represent pi. We are given the diameter, aren't we? We're given the diameter, that the diameter equals 6 inches. So we need the radius, though. To plug that into our formula, we need the radius. So if the diameter is 6 and the radius is half of the diameter, we know that the radius would be 3. So I'm going to plug in 3 for the radius. And then we're trying to find the height. So I'm going to put h in to represent height. That's our unknown. So let's go ahead and clean up the right side of the equation. We've got a lot going on there. And let's go ahead and clean that up. So 3.14. And then what does 3 squared equal? 9. And then we are still trying to find the height. So looking at the right side of the equation, I can still simplify even more. I can actually multiply 3.14 times 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 3.14 times 9 is 28.26 times h. And it's still equal to 99. So remember, our whole goal here is we're trying to solve for h. We're trying to get h all alone. So we ask ourselves, what is being done to h? H is being multiplied by 28.26. So to get h all alone, we have to do the opposite of what's being done to h. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide each side by 28.26. Whatever I do to one side, I always have to do to the other side. And now we've got h all alone on the right side of the equation, and we just need to take 99 and divide it by 28.26. And we get, I'm going to go ahead and round my answer to 1 decimal place. So our height is going to be 3.5, and we need to include our units of measurement, so I'm going to put inches in there. 3.5 inches, and we're done. So just to kind of summarize what we did is we looked to see what information was given. We were given the volume and the diameter, and from the diameter we could find the radius. And then I always like to write out the formula using all the variables, and then I start to substitute in the information that was given to us. And then we solve for h. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, but if you do need more time here, please click pause. There will be problems like this that you need to do this week and solve, so take notes so that you have something to refer back to this week. All right, cones. We're on to cones now. Here is the formula to find the volume of cones. Volume equals 1/3 times capital B times h. And remember that capital B always represents the area of the base. Well, what shape is the base in a cone? What is that shape? It's a circle. It's a circle. So how do we find the area of a circle? Pi r squared. So another way that we can write the formula for volume of a cone is 1/3, and instead of writing capital B, I'm going to write pi r squared because I know that represents the area of the base, and then I need to multiply it times the height of the cone. So the height of the cone is going to be from the tip of the cone down all the way to the base. So that's going to represent the height. And the height always has to form a 90-degree angle with the base. That's what the height is. So here's an example. Let's find the volume of a cone. So first I'm going to start with writing down what my formula is, 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. And then I like to start writing in the information that's given. So I'm going to write 1/3. I know that pi is 3.14. And what's the radius of my cone? So we need to look at the radius of the base, the radius of that circular base. And we see that the radius is 4. So here's the radius. It's of our circular base. It's 4 centimeters. So I'm just going to put 4 in. And then the height is the distance from the top of my cone down to the bottom. So it's going to be 9 centimeters. I'm just going to put 9 in. And then we can do the math. So what I recommend you do first is to multiply 3.14 times 4 times 9 and get that answer. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to type in my calculator, 3.14 times 4 times 9, and then get that answer. So I'm going to do, and then once I get that answer, I'll multiply that times 1/3. So when I multiply 3.14 times 4 times 9, I got 113.04. And then I'm going to take that answer and divide it by 3, or multiply it by 1/3. And that'll get us our final volume of 37.68. I need to include units of measurement, or you will not get full credit. Centimeters cubed, because we're dealing with volume. So keep in mind, please make sure that you try this to plug it into a calculator to make sure you're plugging it in correctly. Since there's that 1/3, I want to make sure that everybody can plug that in their calculators and get that same answer as I did. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So if you need more time, please click pause so that you can have this example to refer back to as you're working through this week's assignments. Next up, just like we did in a previous example with cylinders, we're going to do the same thing here. The problem says if the volume of a cone, so we're given the volume of a cone is 300 feet cubed, what is the missing length? And what other information is given? So let's look at the diagram. It says h equals question mark. So we don't know what the height is. We're trying to find the height. And then it says r equals 5. So we're given the radius. So we're given the volume and the radius, and we need to find the height, just like we did for cylinders. So our first step is to write down the formula for volume of a cone. So volume of a cone equals 1/3 times pi r squared times h. I don't really need those parentheses in there, times height. So let's plug in the information we're given. We're given the volume is 300 feet, so underneath V, I'm going to substitute in 300. Then I'm going to keep 1/3 there. I know pi is represented by 3.14. The radius is 5 feet, and we're going to square that, and then we're trying to find the height. So let's clean up the right side of the equation. We've got a lot of things that we can multiply. All those numbers we can multiply times each other so that we simplify that into one number. So I know I'm going to multiply 3.14, and I know that 5 squared is 25. So if I want, I can rewrite this again with that 5 squared being simplified as 25 times h. So now I'm going to multiply 3.14 times 25. And then I'm going to take that total. When I multiply 3.14 times 25, I get 78.5, and I'm going to divide that by 3 because of that 1/3, or you can multiply it by 1/3. When you do that, you should get 26 point, I'm going to round to 2 decimal places, 17 times h. So we need to solve for h. H is being multiplied by 26.17, so I'm going to divide each side by 26.17 so that I can get h all alone. And when I do that, 300 divided by 26.17, I'm going to round to 2 decimal places again. I get 11.46 equals the height. And then I need to use my units. So height is represented by just feet here. And then we're done. We found just the height. So again, always make sure you start with just writing down the general formula first, and then start substituting into the formula the values that were given to you. I'm going to go to the next slide, so if you need more time, please click pause now. Spheres, that's the last thing we're going to learn about today is the volume of spheres. And here is our formula. Volume equals 4/3 times pi r cubed. Pi r cubed. Let's use this formula. We've got a sphere at the bottom of the slide with a dimension given. So we're given the dimensions from one side of the circle through the center to the other side. So that means we're given our diameter. But to use the formula, we need the radius. So if the diameter is 30 centimeters, what is the radius? So from the outside, what is the radius? The radius would have to equal half of 30, which is 15. So we can now use our formula. Volume equals 4/3 times pi r cubed. And let's start substituting in the information given. 4/3 times, I'm going to put 3.14 to represent pi. And then our radius is 15. And I'm going to cube that. So I'm going to go through and clean this equation up now. What's 15 cubed? That's really what we need to start with simplifying. So 15 cubed is 15 times 15 times 15. And when I do 15 times 15 times 15, I get a pretty big number. 3,375. This always equals 5. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to plug into my calculator 13.14 times 33.75, and I get that answer, and I'm going to multiply it times 4/3. So I'm going to do the 4/3 after, I'm going to multiply after I multiply 3.14 times that 33.75. And when I do that, I get 14,130, and I always need my units of measurement, centimeters cubed. And that is our answer. So I multiplied these two numbers together first, and then I multiplied it times that 4/3. That's how I got that. So try this, plug it in your calculator, make sure you get the same value as I did for volume. Okay, I'm going to go on the next slide, so make sure you get this all in your notes. If you need to, go ahead and click pause. We're going to skip that one. We're running out of time for this recording. Well, the last thing I wanted to do is look at how you can find the volume of a composite figure. And all composite means is a figure made up of more than one 3D shape. So a composite figure is made up of more than one three-dimensional shape. So what is this composite picture? What two shapes is it made up of? So we've got a composite figure here. What two shapes is it made up of? We've got this top shape is a cylinder, and then the bottom shape, we've got a cone. So we've got a cone and a cylinder. So what we need to do to find the entire volume is to find the volume of each separate figure and then add those together. So what we're going to do is first, we can find the volume of the cylinder. So let's first find the volume of the cylinder. And then we'll find the volume of the cone. And then we'll add them up together. So volume of a cylinder. How do we find the volume of a cylinder? Remember, that is the volume of the area of the base times the height. And since the base is a circle, we know it's pi r squared times the height. So let's substitute in the values we know. 3.14 for pi. The radius is that right here, that measurement here, so that's 5 centimeters. So we're going to do 5 centimeters squared. And then what's the height of our cylinder? What is the height of our cylinder? It is 17.8. That's what it was pointing to right here. From here to here is 17.8. So that's going to be the height of our cylinder. So let's plug that stuff into our calculator. 3.14 times 5 squared is 25 times 17.8. And we plug that all in, I get 1,397.3 centimeters cubed. And I'm going to hold on to that. We're going to use that in a little bit here. So I'm going to highlight this so that we will know what the volume was for our cylinder, and we'll come back for that. Now let's do the volume of a cone. Volume of a cone. And what was the volume of a cone? How do we find that? 1/3 base times height. 1/3 base times height. So volume equals 1/3 the area of the base, which is pi r squared, times our height. So let's substitute in the values that we're given for this, for our cone. 3.14 we'll substitute in for pi. What's the radius? It's also 5. The radius here is also 5. We got to square that. And then our height. What is the height? So we've got two measurements. We're given this measurement and this measurement. So remember, the height has to form a right angle with the base. So this is going to be the height we need to use. This 6.2 is going to be the height we need to use. So 6.2. So now I'm going to plug this into my calculator. I'm going to do 3.14 times 5 squared. I know that's 25 times 6.2. And then once I do that, once I get that value, I got 486.7. I'm going to multiply 486.7 times 1/3, or really just take that and divide it by 3. And I get 162.2, and that's got to be centimeters cubed because we're dealing with volume. So now we have the volume of each of our two shapes, our cone and our cylinder, and now we need to add those together. So to find the total volume, we need to add those two values together. So to find that total volume, we're going to add our two values together. So we're going to add 1,397.3 plus the volume for our cone, which is 162.2. And what do we get when we add those two values together? So 162.2 plus 1,397.3, and we get a total of 1,559.5. We're still dealing with volume, so it's going to be centimeters cubed. And that's the total volume. Ooh, that's not coming out right. Of that composite figure. All right, so that's it. That's the end of our recorded session for the week of March 29th. We're in the last week of March. So what are the units of measurement when we deal with volume? So this is important that you guys include your units of measurement when you are doing your calculations this week. So what do we do when we have units of measurement? What are they for volume? And that's your question. You answer that and you'll get your 10 points. Have a wonderful rest of the week and be sure to contact me if you have any questions this week.